Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough. Today's review is just one of a two-part request from Digital Super Saiyan 3970. When it comes to reviewing games based on popular Pixar movies, I've definitely looked at a decent number of them up until this point. From The Incredibles to Finding Nemo to Cars to A Bug's Life, and now we have two favorites of mine from when I was growing up. Before we get to Monsters, Inc. for PlayStation 1, we'll be looking at the first Pixar game based on Pixar's first big breakout success, Toy Story. Released on Super Nintendo, Genesis, Game Boy, and PC, this game was put out by Traveler's Tale and Disney Interactive in 1995, around the same time of the film's initial success. Rightfully so, Pixar hit it big with their first big movie. It made them a household name, it won over critics and audiences alike, and it went on to spawn a franchise. And along with the first wave of licensed toys, t-shirts, posters, and home video releases, along came the video games. There were various companies that had a hand in developing all the different versions. Capcom worked on the Super Famicom version, and of course Sega and Nintendo did their respective versions for the American releases, which was met with generally positive reception, specifically for the two main console versions, with many citing the game's graphics and gameplay holding up well, but criticizing the level of difficulty. Not just for the youngest of players, but also grown adults who reviewed the game said the game's difficulty was too much for a Toy Story game. Now, going off of the request, we're going to specifically look at the Sega Genesis version. But before we look at the game itself, really let that sink in. This game was made for the Sega Genesis, as opposed to the Sega Saturn, which hit shelves in the US just a few months prior to this game's release. Well, like many other people, I grew up with the original Toy Story movies, and I still look back at them with fondness after all these years. So, let's see how the first ever Pixar movie game turned out. This is Toy Story for Sega Genesis. Alright. Since we're dealing with a game from the mid-90s, the cutscenes mostly consist of still shots from the movie and text explaining the plot and dialogue. Considering the level of graphics in the game, I'm fine with this, since they probably couldn't do 3D graphical work in the game as well as have clean-looking movie clips for the cutscenes. With that, we play as Woody running around in Andy's room. After testing out the controls in a demo stage that helps you get used to platforming, the first stage has Woody help all the toys hide before Andy and his friends can run up and see them. The gameplay here entails getting the toys to follow you, and once they get near this inflatable pump thing, you launch them into the toy chest. It's a little tedious, but I felt it helped me get suited to the controls fine enough. You'll also notice the graphics. For 95, with a lot of game companies dipping their toes into 3D graphics for the first time, it looks pretty good, especially for a Genesis release. The one problem I did have with the graphics is the inconsistency. Sometimes things are so detailed they appear as if you can interact with them, and then other times it turns out they're just part of the background and you can't. So that can be a little bit confusing for what you can and can't interact with. Most of this game plays out like a side-scrolling platformer, having Woody go from the left of the screen to the right of the screen, dodging enemies and jumping onto platforms. Your only real means of defense is your pull string, which he uses as a lasso to whip his enemies, as well as using said lasso to latch onto things that you can climb and get onto certain platforms. This plays into the next stage after Buzz is brought to the room. In the next stage, the two start racing each other around the room, as opposed to the movie where Buzz does the whole falling with style sequence. When it comes to latching onto platforms, this is one of those games where you have to be dead on with your precision. Whether it's latching onto these things, or when it comes to hitting enemies, you have to be 1000% accurate, or else you're not landing a hit or making it onto a platform. Jeez. We're so early on in the game and yet it's already difficult. Well, who knows? Maybe it'll get easier after this. No, it won't. No, it won't. No, it won't. What? Wow, great moves, Woody. Keep it up. Proud of you. After that, we get one of the few boss stages in the game. Woody has a nightmare, which, funny enough, was a deleted scene from the first movie, which they then repurposed into the second movie. And you have to fight a giant Buzz who's shooting lasers with Dragon Balls spinning around him? Anyway, you're supposed to knock these things out of the way and use the pull string whip lasso and land a couple hits on Buzz to defeat him. Easily the most frustrating part of this is the lack of lives. As soon as the stage starts, you're given 3 lives, and you have to be really careful because if you lose all 3 lives, you're starting the entire game over. And the US release of this game didn't even come with continues, so have fun with that. Starting to see why people complained about the difficulty. Though interestingly, after this game was released in the US, future versions of the game that were released in other parts of the world actually had continues put in. So yeah, the US version doesn't have continues, but other versions outside of that region do. I'm assuming enough people complained about it for them to finally get the hint. After that, things go into an overhead view and you play as RC trying to hit Buzz and knock him out the window, which is just hilarious to see Buzz spinning and flying towards the camera every time you hit him. Only thing that sucks is the controls are a bit wonky, especially when you hit blockades, you go into the spin out type motion. Anyway, once Buzz gets knocked out the window, the toys saw what happened and they gang up on Woody. But Rex tells Woody to hop on his back and he'll help him, because you helped him earlier in the game, I guess? Alright. Oh god, it looks like Mario riding Yoshi. The point here is to avoid getting caught by the other toys, so it's just more of the same, really. Same kind of jumping controls and platforming. Thankfully, we finally leave the house and we get something different with the next level. This time it turns into a fighting stage as Woody and Buzz squabble under the car at the gas station. First thing I noticed was the level of swagger Buzz has whenever he walks, before he goes into this full-on headbutt formation and charges you. Now I admit, I really struggled with this level before I finally looked up what this tire thing on screen is supposed to do. You're supposed to get it up in the air as it wraps around Buzz, restraining him, which gives you enough time to land some hits on him. But again, the precision with how you do all of this has to be exact, and it takes quite a while for you to finally get it right. After that, we get a stealth level as Woody and Buzz finally start working together and work their way around Pizza Planet. This level's pretty easy, it's just a lot of stop moving and drop to the floor when people walk by. The only thing I didn't like about this is how surprisingly long this level was. But up until this point in the game, it's only just been kinda tricky. Tedious, but doable. Then you get to the next level, where you play as Woody trying to work your way through the claw machine, and this is easily one of the most intricate levels in the whole game. I understand creative liberties with licensed movie games, but my god, what kind of claw machine looks like this? Until they told me where I was, I thought it was some kind of industrial factory or something. But once you get past that, this is a perfect example of how precise everything has to be in this game. Platforms that are really small and limited to reach with an average jump, and there are also these rotating blade gear things that you cannot time accurately at all. Whenever I came up to one of these things, I just ran through and took the hit anyway. Thankfully, there are checkpoints in this stage. Those certainly came in handy. This is definitely one of the levels I could not wait to be over. So if you're keeping score at home, so far this game has consisted of platforming, an overhead driving stage, a fighting level, and even a stealth mission. What could possibly come next, you may ask? Well, let me tell you. It's a Doom-inspired first-person level. Yeah, a Toy Story game with a level designed like Doom. You know, minus the violence. It is rated kids to adult after all. No, this level plays out like a maze where you have to collect the little green aliens and bring them back to the center of the crane game. This leads to the boss of this level, where you have to throw some of the aliens to knock Buzz out of the grip of the claw. Which doesn't really matter anyway, since you know Buzz and Woody are going to end up getting picked up by the claw and taken to Sid's house anyway. Point is, you have to land at least 5 hits on the claw, and if Buzz goes out of frame, you have to start the whole stage over again. After that, you make it to Sid's house with yet another platforming stage. This time with even more projectiles, spider enemies that are so low to the ground even bending over isn't enough to reach them, even more of the terrible pull string lassoing and trying to climb onto platform precision BS, and barely any time to process things. Because if you do stop for too long, Sid's hand comes out Monty Python style and burns you with a magnifying glass, which causes Woody to run wildly before he shoves his head into a bowl of cereal. Seriously, this level will keep you on your toes, and you're gonna have to keep moving. Halfway through the stage, you have to rescue Buzz, who's now strapped to the rocket. Once you get to him, enemies in the form of the mutant toys show up, and you immediately have to use Buzz's karate chop action, or else you're gonna get hit and you're doing the whole level over again. For the final platforming stage in the game, it is a major pain in the ass, but once you beat it, you feel like you're on cloud 9, man. Oh, thank God it's over. There's only a couple more stages after this, but believe me, nothing on the same level of that Demon Souls ass, Dark Souls ass, Cuphead ass, SNES Aladdin ass level of difficulty. After that, you get another chase level like the Rex level from earlier, but this time Woody rides on Roller Bob while Scud chases after them, all the while dodging projectiles. It can be a little tricky, but after some of the previous levels we've had, I'll happily welcome this stage with open arms. But if you're expecting a final boss stage against Sid, they don't. No, they breeze right by that with a cutscene that explains what happens in the movie. After that is a level that's not even included in the Super Nintendo version. It's a third-person driving stage where barely anything happens. You just stay on course and collect some power-ups. It's mildly fun, but again, after some of the more difficult levels I've seen, I consider this a pleasant palate cleanser. After that, we get an overhead driving stage with both Buzz and Woody on RC, where you collect some more power-up stars. It's easier than the overhead driving stage from earlier in the game, and really the only difficulty I had here was sometimes the driving controls are a little slippery. And finally, we end the game with a side-scrolling flying stage with Woody and Buzz flying.
This isn't flying, this is falling with style.
Falling with style, while dodging cars, trees, and traffic lights before landing in the car with Andy and his family. So that was Toy Story on Sega Genesis. It's far from a bad game, but it is certainly a hard son of a bitch. The graphics still hold up, and I will say, it is one of those really hard games that made me want to keep playing and inevitably beat it. But I can't deny, the critics are right on this one. This game is incredibly difficult, specifically the whole middle portion, with the levels after Sid's house feeling way easier compared to the ones that came before. Added with the extra kick in the nuts, like the lack of continues in the US version, it does make a rather difficult game for both younger players and older gamers alike. Not bad enough to say that it sucks, but I'd be wary if you pick up a console version of this game. You're really gonna have to knuckle down to beat this one. And to think, I accused Bugs Life on N64 for being too easy. After playing a game like this, maybe they heard all the complaints about the difficulty and decided to tone it down a couple of notches. But at least we didn't look at Toy Story.exe. Not looking at that next time. No, next time we're going to be looking at Monsters Inc. on PlayStation 1, but until then, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough.
Wow, Ethan, great move. Keep it up.